Yeah, thank you, Riina. It's a pleasure and an honor to be here talking with all of you guys. And I think this morning when Jussi spoke about our kind of common goal of kind of like learning together, it's like a privilege to be part of that. And I'm going to talk about beliefs and how to really get to this new paradigm that we are going towards. And for me, this new paradigm is really attractive. Like, it allows so many things. And I think because you two are here today, you share the same thought about that. And who wouldn't like if their team, themselves, and their organization could embrace change? Not just live through change, but embrace change and value individuals and interactions over processes and tools, collaboration over contracts. And so getting there is really attractive. But it's really hard. I've been trying to help individuals and organizations, including myself, get there for the past 5 years. Sometimes I've had small victories. Sometimes I've had resistance and I've failed. And I found out that it's our beliefs that hold us back. Our old beliefs of how the work works or how the work should work. And sometimes you might feel like, in your own teams and organizations, feel like Galileo Galilei, describing like actually as the Copernicus said, the earth revolves around the sun and not vice versa to the Catholic priests and Inquisition. It might be like that some days. And why these beliefs have such a strong hold of us to keep us from reaching the new paradigm of knowledge work? It's because it's the foundation of culture, our beliefs and assumptions. Joachim Sundén from Spotify spoke here before lunch about the values and the culture being the basis of the organization model and their practices. And according to Edgar Schein, actually the foundational level of culture is assumptions and beliefs, many of which, or the majority of which, are unconscious. So if I don't know that I have this belief, it's very hard for me to change it. So what I'm going to talk about and offer you is to give you ideas and concrete practices to help people and organizations, including you, get rid of these so-called legacy beliefs of knowledge work that hold us back from embracing the new paradigm of knowledge work. And to do that, I have to start with going back in time for like 10 years ago. 10 years ago, I was doing a completely different thing. I was designing games for learning together with science teachers. And I did that at the Agora Game Lab in the University of Jyväskylä. And the science teachers had this problem. Kids had hard time learning science because of the beliefs that they had that conflicted with the scientific theory they were trying to learn. Let's pick an example, like what is the common belief for seasons? Why we have temperature changes between seasons? And well, kids have a common kind of misconception about that, and it's not just kids. Let's hear what it is, and let's not hear it from the kids, let's hear it from graduate students from Harvard, what they think about why the seasons are. Thomas Borman.
Causes of the seasons is a topic taught in every standard curriculum.
Okay, I think the seasons happen because as the Earth travels around the sun, it gets nearer to the sun, which produces warmer weather, and gets farther away, which produces colder weather, and hence the seasons.
How hot it is or how cold it is at any given time of the year has to do with the closeness of the Earth to the sun during the seasonal periods.
The Earth goes around the sun, and it gets hotter when we get closer to the sun, and it gets colder when we get farther away from the sun.
Okay, so if graduate students from Harvard have these kind of beliefs, it's no wonder that children have those too. And, well, actually, as we all know, I hope, the real reason is the axial tilt of the Earth as it orbits around the sun, making so that in the northern hemisphere, when it's summer, the rays from the sun go to the atmosphere in a straighter angle, giving more warmth to the northern hemisphere, and vice versa for the southern hemisphere. And if you think about the difference between this belief and this actual scientific fact, the problem is not that they are conflicting, but actually if you have the misconception about seasons, you have hard time picking up any scientific knowledge related to these themes in astronomy and climate, for example, climate change or something like that. And this is a huge problem, and that's not the only misconception about science. And in a moment, I will tell what we did with the learning games, but let's get back to the knowledge work. And what are the beliefs, similar beliefs in knowledge work that hold us back, hold our organizations and teams back? And I like to suggest something a bit silly to like make it more fun. I think some of you might have been in the stand-up comedy shows where when the comedian asks a question, how does the audience answer? Like, who here is from Helsinki? Okay, thank you. That's actually the thing. So I'm going to go through these misconceptions or beliefs about knowledge work, and if you have seen that or felt that, please clap so that we know that how commonplace these kind of things are. The first is batch thinking. And let me just give you some examples before we get to the clapping part. Well, delivering or deploying or releasing each piece of work has a cost. So it's most efficient to do it in one huge release to reduce the cost. Anyone have that? Okay. Yeah, so the assumption is that this saves time and money, and actually the hidden cost or the trade-off is the ability to adapt to changes, as we all know probably. And the risk is that the batches become even bigger and bigger when there's not any stuff coming out of the pipeline. And other thing related to that is using specialists' time for just what they are best at is most efficient. Like, yeah, and you can clap now if you want. If you have a business analyst and he has only 50% of his time used in one project, we should find another requirements project for her or him to work at the other 50% of the time, because otherwise we would become less efficient. So in the end, we have like 10 or 20 projects going on at all times. But this is efficient because nobody is kind of like slacking off. And of course, the trade-off cost is, well, different phases need information from other people, and then there are delays and interruptions, and there's no collaboration. There's lots of information everywhere, and no shared understanding of what the fuck we are doing. Okay, let's go to the second common misconception about knowledge work. 100% utilization on planned work is what keeps us efficient. Anyone have that? Okay, yeah, cool. Yeah, and it's really important to keep like everybody busy at all times, and this is actually related to the last. And well, in knowledge work, there is sometimes there's always surprises. There's always something that comes up, and when people are 100% utilized, they cannot adapt to those surprises. They're just fucked up, and all the plans go to shit, and all the releases are late, and yeah. But this keeps coming up, even though people understand all these things. Somehow it's. And the final, this is my favorite, partly because I invented the word, process rollout of positivism. And as I invented the word, I think I should kind of explain it. It's the kind of belief that new processes can be rolled out by the management to organizations and teams. They just draw up a new chart, and then they put it on SharePoint and send some emails, and voila, the work in the whole organization changes. Anybody had that? Yeah. And the other variation of this, that let's just change the organization chart, and the organization will change as a result of that in some meaningful way. Anybody have that? Yeah. And on the basis of this is kind of dividing the organization into thinkers and doers. Like, yeah, that's efficient. We have the management who draws the processes and decides what to do and decides how the organization chart is going to look like, so that the people that are doing the work don't have to bother with it. Yeah? And actually this leads to nobody giving a shit about anything that's happening in the organization, because those people are always fucking up the organization chart and the processes, and those people are always fucking up actual work and not working according to the processes. Okay, I think we have our work cut out here. So the question comes then, how to get rid of these legacy beliefs? And I think the kind of traditional answer is like pouring new knowledge on top of the old one. Getting people to trainings, having them read a book, giving logical arguments about, well, this doesn't work, it's not like that, it's like this. But this has the problem that those beliefs are really deep in our cognition, and they are connected to other things that are in our cognition. And when a new kind of conflicting idea comes, it really has no chance of surviving, because it hasn't got that kind of connections in our cognition, so it will lose. Logical argument doesn't help. And the same problem we had with those kids, and the science teachers had with those kids with trouble learning science because of their misconceptions. So what we did with games was providing them an experience where they could try out different strategies in an environment that was, well, fun in some way, and also, most importantly, distanced from the context of science somewhat, so that they couldn't connect it straight to their old beliefs, and they were able to practice different strategies and try out different theories. And of course, the games were rigged so that their old beliefs didn't work and the scientific theories did work. So, but that was only the first part. This didn't help that much, I have to say. But what was important, after those game-playing sessions, oh, cool. We had group reflection sessions together, starting first by having the children compare their experiences playing the game and have their own experience confirmed by the others in the group. Okay, you saw that the same strategy worked, so it wasn't just me. And after that, having the teacher bring up the scientific matter after they had some experiences and confirmation with the group, and then getting that connected to the scientific theory. And by that time, they had some connections in their cognition already, their experience of playing the game and the confirmation from the earlier parts of reflection. So there was some sticking point to those new ideas. And they were able to kind of process it together in a kind of informal situation. And the last part was applying that new theory into another context. Meaning, in this case, something like having other exercises about the same subject or having some group work. So, to reinforce the new theory in their minds. And that's basically how it works. And during the past few years, I found out that actually this same pattern can be used for the beliefs about knowledge work. Just a little bit different things. Managers are not so fond of computer games, or most people, and that's not actually for knowledge work the most best exercise or experience. But let me go through a couple of experiences that I found useful. And you might, these are not esoteric ones, so you might recognize some of them, but let us talk a bit about why they might work. First is the marshmallow challenge. Who knows the marshmallow challenge? Okay, with less than a half. It's a design exercise where you compete in teams. You try to build the tallest structure that can hold a marshmallow, and you have spaghetti sticks and tape and string as materials, and 18 minutes in which to complete it. And it's an excellent exercise, and I use it to help people get rid of the idea of batch thinking and 100% utilization too. And when we do it, people's thinking usually goes like this. Oh fuck, it didn't work this time. I was thinking about spaghetti and marshmallows in a certain way, but that actually doesn't work. And it's quite hard to plan or make decisions with a team of people that has just formed. And when we reflect on that, people usually note that, okay, there was more risks involved than we anticipated, because people have the assumption that they know about spaghetti sticks, they know about marshmallows, but they actually don't that much in the building sense. And then we start talking about, well, how does that relate to your work? And usually they found out, okay, that project, we think there were no risks involved, but actually there were some. And then we get to the practical idea that how could we tackle uncertainty in our work better? And is there actually more uncertainty and risks than we realize? So that's a good starting point for starting to design the work in a new way. that was the first one. I have 4, just to keep you kind of safe and secure. And the second one is Multitasking Name Game by Henrik Nyberg from Crisp, who also has worked with Spotify a lot. And this I use to help people get rid of the 100% utilization belief. And it's a pretty silly basic game where we have 5 customers who want their names written on a piece of paper, and 1 developer with a special ability to write that the customers don't have. And we have 2 phases. In first of it, which the developer has to work in parallel or in a batch. So he has to start writing each name at the same time and finish them kind of like work concurrently. And the second time he can do them one by one. And then we take times and do a chart. How does that go? And usually the experience is like, well, this makes no fucking sense. You are making us do this, and it's not making any sense. And the customers are like, oh, okay, how long is this gonna take? Because this is really ridiculous. And sometimes because I ask for estimates, people are, okay, we were tricked. You didn't say anything about multitasking. And when they try the second phase, they say, that, okay, finally a sensible way to do it. But then when we reflect on it, people actually, when we see the graphs from each type of work, people actually, and I ask the question, if you think about your work, does it resemble the multitasking version or the 1 WIP limit version? People are always saying, okay, yes, it's the multitasking version, but we have to multitask. It's not an option to do it anything differently. So this is actually the experience of this being silly, and okay, we are doing it still at our work. It's something that helps them get into the kind of like thinking that, okay, how could we actually get over it? Is there a way? And of course, somebody starts to think about customer experience, that is it a good customer experience if we say to every request that, okay, we have started working on it. And then the customer doesn't hear from it until it's done. It is like basic service design, unfortunately. Okay, that's 2 from 4. Third one is the ball flow game, which you can see in action there, some variation of it. And I use this to help get rid of process rollout positivism. And what people do, they have to pass balls inside the team, and each ball has to be in every team member's possession in order to be processed, and they have to process a certain number of balls, and they can figure out the process for themselves, and they have the chance to improve that process after iterations. So basically it's about collaborative process creation and improvement. And what people experience it, different kind of things like, well, practice made us better. People are not used to throwing balls at a workshop at work, but they get better really quick. Sometimes they know that, okay, we tried something and failed. And sometimes even they get the experience that, okay, we tried that for the second time and we succeeded. And sometimes there's a bit of chaos. Somebody comes up with a new process and then the time is up and they have to start doing everything. And not everybody understood what we were supposed to do. And usually they come with a kind of stable process but are not able to improve further on that. And this leads to different kinds of reflection. The first kind of basic thing that everybody must understand what we are doing, what we are supposed to be doing, and why. There's no really kind of way around that at work. And that all improvements in knowledge work are experiments. You have to try out something, and just after trying, you know if it's going to work or not. So you are going to have to experiment a lot. And also that, like, trying to improve without changing the process is a bit silly. Like, just do it faster. Don't change anything, but do it fast. That doesn't really work. And this can lead to kind of the application part, that how could we continuously improve our ways of working with just the people who do the work and keep it visible. And the last one, and this is a kind of trick one because this isn't a game in the same sense, but this I have used with great success also. Mapping the value stream of the current process that a team or organization has. And we did this with a certain financial institution with close to 50 developers, with starting from the customer need and ending towards the delivery. And usually what happens is that there are handoffs, even though the process is documented, people find out, okay, those guys who should deliver, for example, the software that we are going to test, they have completely different idea of how they should deliver it and what they should deliver than us, and they are totally stupid because we know it and they don't. And when they try to document how we do things, they get stuck. Okay, how do we do this part? And they might ask a manager who has drawn the process. And then there's the kind of like, okay, this part depends, and well, the process is like this, but we really do this. So maybe the managers, or sometimes the managers kind of like figure out that, okay, our people think that process or following the process is somebody else's problem because somebody else designs the process. And there are also always special cases that are not covered. And when the process doesn't work, people make their own decisions. And people always interpret things differently when they just have some document and they have to interpret it. And it leads to kind of thinking about how to make developing ways of working like everybody's problem. And that can be a really nice start of a valuable conversation. So, to conclude, our culture at work and elsewhere is founded on our assumptions and beliefs that are unconscious. And trying to change just practices or processes or rules, or even just values, it doesn't work if the assumptions behind those don't change. And here's my kind of simple recipe for facilitating the change in beliefs and assumptions. Starting with the experience that is distance and safe. Distance from the actual work context. That's why silly games work. Because it doesn't provide immediate cognitive conflict with the old beliefs. Then reflection together to make that experience really shared and the conclusions from that shared. And then application in real context. And that means an experiment. Starting to experiment with a new theory to reinforce that. And actually, changing beliefs, in my opinion, is only happening after people have experimented something with a new kind of idea of how knowledge work works and have had a positive outcome out of that. So if you want to try this out, I hope that you have some positive outcomes from these things that I've offered, because that means that you can start believing that it really works. That was actually all I have. The materials will be on SlideShare shortly, and there will be more slides with more words on them than the ones that I showed you, so you can get the overall idea of what I'm talking about. And if you want to talk about these things, I'm here and also at the after party, and you can find me on Twitter or email me. So, thank you.